Well, we're recording. First podcast. We flew to Vegas, drove to Atlanta, then Michigan. Um, yeah,
It was a long trip.
it's a long trip. So, I'm Jimmy, this is Christian. We are mortgage brokers. So, Christian is the head of marketing. I do the sales, and we're just trying this out. So, one of the ideas that we had is to start a podcast about business. You know, a lot of things that I get to do, I get to talk to a lot of very cool people and their jobs. So, and I know exactly how much they make. And so, when I'm looking at some of these primary jobs and these side hustles, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know anything about this, and I get to meet and talk to a lot of really cool people, and I'm gonna try and share those experiences with you guys so that maybe you'll find a new passion or a new side hustle. So, it's sort of the idea behind it.
Yeah, I think it's been interesting seeing how people get their start up and, asking people if they had to restart over, what they would do to kind of get a leg up on their previous self. And, times have changed. And I think a lot of people want to start their own business and stuff nowadays, seeing how many influencers there are on Instagram and social media and stuff like that. So I think it's interesting seeing a lot of small business startups.
Yeah,
on our podcast.
successful startups too. You don't have to be successful if you got a startup and you want to come tell us about how it's going, what your struggles are, how you're making money, how you're marketing, things of that nature, how you do what you do. We'd love to have you on, but the first few people that we've talked to have all small startup businesses that have grown to be wildly successful businesses. So the first guy we're talking to is Eddy Perez. He started as a mortgage broker like Christian and I. He is now a full-fledged non-depository bank and a really great person to talk to. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
I was
always
surprised when you texted me. I thought it was just a robot texting me, and I was more surprised when Shalonda said, yeah, he's in. So thank you.
I'm a
guys
pretty
so
regular
much.
guy. I don't get caught up on a lot of the BS a lot of leaders do.
Yeah. I watched a lot of your YouTube videos. It bleeds through that way. So, and
Awesome.
I don't know you or anyone in your team, but I do know Jamal, and the reason I work with Equity Prime is because of him. And
He's good.
His conflict resolution, because
He's got good skills.
is
Well, that's what a good. And maybe we'll get into the segment later. We'll talk about it. Like a good sales professional is not a salesperson. They're business development, and it's all about the relationship. And they got to know how to get solutions. Nobody has a challenge when somebody messes up. They have a challenge when you don't resolve it, call them back, communicate. Even if the answer is, man, I have nothing. People just want to know something. It's like I always said, going dark on an email is one of the worst things you can do. Be better to send back F you.
no, you're not wrong. And he has never done that. And so, because we started off with a small processing company and the brokerage at the same time. It was
Sure.
a terrible idea. And then, so that's how we met Jamal, because I don't think I should be in his area. But when I came over to Equity Prime, I was like, I know how good you are. I want you for my company.
No, we
So-
have we don't do territories. One of the big things that our leadership team has done very well there is, hey, we've got AEs, talk to them. Who are you the most comfortable with? Who do you think will provide better for you? Not saying that somebody else is different than the other, but at the end of the day, relationships are biological, and they got to make sure that they can connect with each other, because I've seen it. Same company, same loan process. Some people like this person, some people like that, and that's perfectly okay. You got to have that open mind.
And Countman, excellent job. I have no complaints. Since we've started, at least in the last 2 years, we haven't missed a closing with Equity Prime. It's not even, and I think
That's good, because we've had some growing pains, as I'll say very candidly. We've had some leadership growth opportunities, as we can call it, that we needed to really level up our processes and really lean in. That's been one of the things that we're trying to do. We're doing it with everybody, because especially when it comes to the wholesale community, what a lot of people don't realize is they're not your technically employees.
They're your partners.
They're your partners. However, they're almost like saying a cultural employee, because they obviously buy into what you're doing, and you need to reciprocate that back and really be in. And you got to just ask them questions. That's part of the reason why I send out that email and I send my cell phone. I'm just like, look, be courteous. Don't blow me up and be rude about it. But, I want to make sure I'm accessible. Am I always accessible? No. I'll tell somebody, text them, hey, look, I really am tied up right now. I'm in back-to-back meetings, or I'm tied up in this. But I can. Good thing about technology nowadays, in the middle of some meetings, I can screenshot a picture and tell 3 or 4 people, put it on a text, and say, guys, I need a resolution ASAP. And by the time I'm even done, they've already reached out and gotten it taken care of. So it's really, my job's to play more like quarterback and just get the results, because it's really going to be your playmakers, your middle management, and your everyday employees that are really going to live your partnerships. Make sure the brokers, real estate agents, builders, everybody that brings truly you the revenue is making sure that they're taken care of in a very respectful manner.
It took me, we've only been doing this, 2-3 years, Christian?
Yeah, about 3 years.
So 2 years on our own. We were with Nexa previous to that. The exit there was fantastic. They were really instrumental in us doing that. But
I'm a big, I've known Mike and Matt for a while. Good dudes, great guys. So
nothing but positive things to say about that.
Yeah.
So,
But I commend what they've built. I mean, they've built a empire.
There's no way. When I was there, they had 400, then 800, and I think now they have 1,700.
I've seen even 19. I don't know how accurate any of that is, because as we all know right now,
who's producing, who's not.
Well, not only that, is some people are like, hey, dude, it was a fun ride, 19 to 21. I'm on to kind of what happened in 07, 08. I'm on to software sales, or I'm on to medicine, pharmaceutical. You know what I mean? Like, there are some people, and nothing wrong with that really are professional sales, and they're good at relationships, but they follow the sectors that are hot. Yeah. I've seen it time and time again. I've had friends that have done that too. So you may see some thinning of the herd, which this industry runs real well at 280, 300,000. It had gotten up to 450,000. So like anything else, now that volume has normalized, it's understandable that some people...
Is that just experience talking, or do you have...
what?
Like, how do you know that? I'm sorry.
Oh, I know the data.
Yeah.
I get access to the data. I have access. Yes, there's experience. I survived 07 and 08. I've seen this. This is a very similar changing of the guard.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
This is a podcast that we do for basically Indianapolis. So you're going to be in a mixed group. So we have the first person that owned a $2 million Christmas and power washing business. We have a Bellator MMA fighter on. It's not just a mortgage podcast. It's a business podcast. Can you tell the people a little bit about yourself and what you do? I'm so sorry for not asking that up front.
No problem. Eddy Perez, CEO and president of EPM, Equity Prime Mortgage. What do? I'm a proud father of 3, a proud husband, very fortunate to employ 400 plus employees, very fortunate to also have over 1,000 broker partners and adding, and just very thankful to be in this country. I'm first generation born from Cuban immigrant parents. I got the benefit of both worlds, is what I always tell people. I got to see the immigrant side, but I also got to learn the American side, because I was born in this country, even though English is my second language. So it's a huge benefit today, because that's how I can speak Spanish on a dime. I know when most people look at me, they don't see that, but wait till my mom calls and I can turn it on. It's just very natural to me, because from, I guess 5 years old to 18, before I went away to college, half my day for 13 years was, in the most important years, half English, half Spanish, every day.
Okay. And then we were talking about the market and how that was going. So, you started as a broker.
Started as a broker in 05, and then in 2008, I know it sounds a little insanity, we decided to become a mortgage banker, because it was very obvious what was coming down the horizon, that unfortunately, even though I've always been a big fan of all originators, retail, wholesale. I'll always be an originator at heart, just depending on what channel you want to be under, and it's really about your own dynamic. It's very obvious that they were trying to blame the brokers for the financial crash, and I didn't think that was fair because you still need a lender to do it. And what I think a lot of people don't want to admit during that crash was everybody was in on it, even a lot of the consumers. And what I mean by that is a lot of them just kept using their house as an ATM. And at the end of the day, you got to have some self-responsibility and really look in the mirror. And it was just poor underwriting standards, not guidelines. The standards were wide open. So, yep, that's 2008. We decided to become a mortgage banker because at some point in time, I wanted to have both channels because I wanted to make sure that we serve all consumers, or as many as we could, because it's, some people want to deal with somebody locally, somebody deals with somebody nationally, but that way you're still covering as much as the consumers and our fellow Americans as you can.
And you'll have to forgive my greenness on this question.
No.
Is there a difference between a banker and a non-delegated correspondent lender? So are you a banker?
So what it is, and that's a great question. No ignorance. There's certain levels of, I guess you can say, a mortgage firm. You have a broker, you have non-delegated, which is, essentially a broker with a line of credit.
Yep.
And, you're still depending on it. Then you're delegated. That's when, okay, your underwriters are in-house, and it's really on you. And that's when you can get your full legal and everything of that nature. Then you start trading. But you start trading through other counterparties that are aggregators. And then you have what I call the final level, which is stage 5, which is you're a servicer. And yes, we are a full servicer as well.
Okay.
We sub-service in pure candor and white label it because, I don't have the tech, and you don't need to pay for that level of tech when somebody else will do it very great for you. However, we're the ones collecting the payments, distributing them to Ginnie Mae, Fannie Mae, all that stuff. So there is certain levels. We don't take deposits, if that's what you mean by. So we're a non-depository mortgage banker.
Okay.
So we are an IMB, independent mortgage banker. And now in the current market, IMBs are really leading the way, even with their partners that are independent mortgage brokers themselves. That's who's funding most of their loans, and that's also who's funding a lot of the business out there that is even, moderate income, diversity, all walks of life. Brokers and the independent mortgage bankers are really driving that ship.
Yeah, I like you guys because of the diversification that you offer. Just not only from what you do with veterans and how
Sure.
you respect the veterans credit score and the guidelines there, but, even the consumers who might need a little bit of help. There's not a lot of people who do that and do it well,
Sure.
and so.
Yeah, look, anybody could do an easy loan.
That's what I tell my realtors.
Look, they deserve to give it to you because, having been an originator, I know sometimes they'll have their easy people and then, I'm only giving the tough stuff to that. And that's not really what I would call a real partnership at that point or a relationship. However, easy's easy.
Yeah.
20% down, W-2, been in the job 20 years. I know the dynamics of the room we're in pretty well, but I think if you could blindfold me, I could get that loan done.
7 days trade
Before
trade,
trade, even, it's...
You are true.
Because when you tell them, hey, this is what I need, by the time you look at your screen, it's all there. Like, there's no, time
there's
is
no
your friend.
consideration behind it.
Yeah.
There's no mental power to consider the consumer themselves.
Yeah.
And the lending risk.
Yeah. It's
So.
just... As they say in baseball, it's a belt-high fastball. And it's kind of like in the movie, if you've ever seen Bull Durham, where the catcher tells the player it's a belt-high fastball, and he hits a home run. And then jokingly, he goes, man, he hit that like he knew he was throwing it. And the catcher goes, he did. I told him. It's kind of that same analogy from that movie. And that was Kevin Costner. And that was, what's his name that was in Shawshank Redemption? Tim Robbins.
Okay.
When he was young. That movie, let's see, I'm 46 now. I'm pretty sure I was like 12 or 13 when it came out. So that movie's like from the late 80s.
It's okay. I like movies, so
It's a fun one. It's a fun baseball movie. It's obviously nowadays with TVs, the movies are so well, you can see so much, just the pixelation and all that, but this is straight 80s. You can kind of tell.
yeah.
But it's a good movie. It's a great movie. It's funny, it's good, has great morals to the story. Fun movie.
So you are a leading partner for the broker channel, but you also have a successful retail side.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you do both? It's unique. I would consider you the big three, in my book anyway. And you're the only one in those three that I know of that has it. I know one of your other competitors used to and they don't anymore, but
Sure.
Why do you do that?
Well, I think I used to use this analogy that till this year worked, and now it doesn't. I used to use baseball as the analogy because they're not the same DNA of originator, having myself possessed both. I've been a retail LO and I've been a broker on my own. And a good retail originator needs the infrastructure and everybody behind them. They just want to hand the file, see you later. They don't want to do anything else. And to a degree, that makes sense because they're very good at what I would call the fun stuff of building the relationships and fostering and delivering results, but it's on the backbone of that team that does that. So our retail division, you hand it in, you go. Of course, people are like, well, does that mean compensation's lower? Of course it is. It's still a math game in the end. But we run our retail very similar to how we run wholesale in similar margins so that it's not blown out in certain areas. We watch that very closely. And wholesale, like I said, it used to make sense when I used to say, you had the DH in the American League is what I would call wholesale. And then I would say, the National League was more about pitching. And that's kind of what I would say if you have a whole team that's pitching in. But, now the National League also has a DH. So that analogy will probably sit well for a little bit. But in 10 years, people are going to have no idea what I mean by that. So I'll have to come up with a better comparison. But they just don't share the same DNA. Like I would say that they're siblings, but because originators are originators, but they're just
It's
two
a different hunt. If at least in my world, because we spent our first 6 years in an online aggregator, so
Sure.
we didn't have any realtor connections. So when I came to the broker world, I was like, what do I do? What do you mean? There's no leads. So, and then the training wheels came off when you had to start processing your own loans and everything, like getting your own licensing.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I always equate it to that. The training wheels are off.
Yeah.
And it's training wheels is a harsh word, but the processes that are built as a retail lender are so nice that you don't realize how good you have it until they're stripped away and you're responsible to wear 5 hats. Yeah,
and that's why I say that. That's why I say the retail space. I think current market conditions. I think wholesale is going to keep growing because this kind of reminds me of the transformation. Because when I got in the business, 65% of the market was wholesale or non-del, which to me are potato, very close to each other. 35% was mortgage banker, bank. Banks, as we've seen, are exiting out of it. They're basically leaving that side, the residential side, to a lot of us professionals. And not that they're not professionals, but the bank space is just moving more towards commercial and the investment side. And that makes sense because it treats them and their employees as well as their stockholders better because they can get more with that capital. So it's just one of these, you summed it up very well, that there's more independence as a broker. There's a little bit more dependence as a retail. And that's what I always tell people. You've got to figure out what works for you. You can't fall for a line of what works for them because you may want the independence or you may want the dependence. You can still get to the same spot. It just depends really on your own psyche and dynamic.
Yeah, I think I agree wholeheartedly. So, do you ever find? I know there's conflict because I'm on the broker channels. There were last year. It's calmed down because you guys been night and day better. What about on your retail side? Do those guys ever ask you why, or have they ever run into a broker deal? Like,
It really hasn't. I mean, there was one recently, and that was just fate. And it was just, believe it or not, the real estate agent was shopping both people against each other. So
been there. Had one last night.
So
at
it's
11
just the
o'clock.
coincidence was one of them was on our retail side and the other person wanted to bring the loan to us. And they're like, what the heck? But the retail side is always our leader there, Steve Carpatella. You know, I couldn't ask for a better leader. He completely understands. He's like, no, guys, we got to back down. They're not mean about it. Especially, you know, he's got a good perspective, like you said, is, hey, if you're getting shot by this real estate agent, do you really have the relationship? You know, let's be, you know, humble and graceful with ourselves. You know, do we have that? No, you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you see any differences between today's market and 2008?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of huge differences between 2008, 2022, and now we're going into 23. First off, loan quality is, I don't even know the percentage, but we're just going to say miles better. So,
Not feet.
yeah, like, you know, it takes a lot more than fogging up a mirror to get a loan. And beforehand, that's why I say the underwriting standards were low then. Now they're very high. So I do believe, you know, some people are saying, hey, is there going to be a crash? I mean, I do think some prices are cooling off and you're already seeing it. It's now become a buyer's market. However, it needed to a degree because people not being able, you know, your everyday first-time, second-time home buyer, VA buyers, USDA buyers who are getting outbid. And it's called for what it is. It was a big, you know, nobody wants to talk about it, but it's true. Real estate agents would only look at the cash or the conventional offers and throw the rest out. That was happening. People will say it doesn't. And I've talked to some real estate agents. They said, what do you expect? I got to look out for my seller. And I mean, I understood. I mean, I'm not mad at them. I don't think it's fair, but I get where their mindset was and how they rationalized it. But quality's better. I do think there's a changing of the guard, and I've spoken out about it for over a year now because this industry, from what I've learned from some of the veterans, because I asked them about it, is there's always about a 15, 16-year stretch run, and then everybody that was coming into their 30s to 40s, that's kind of like when they become professionals. As they say in sports, that 22 to 37, it's just, you know, obviously in the business world, you're older. When you get to your true wisdom and development where, you know, you're still very cognitive. You have a lot of skills that you've gained, the soft skills, which are hard, the leadership skills. You've made a boatload of mistakes. You know, in sports, you just do it earlier, 5, 6, 7. You know, you're making all your mistakes. So it's still the same progression, usually about 20 years to get there. But there's always a new phasing out. And you're seeing a lot of people retire right now because they had a great run. They had a great career, you know.
Saw a few companies sell in the middle of COVID, and they look really smart right about now.
Yeah, no. There are some people that sold definitely on the high. You know, I have a couple of friends that talk about that. You know, it's just, the question is, are you a lifer? Are you going to stay in it? And some people at a certain point, you know, I'd be sitting here lying to you right now if I told you that, you know, when this next change of the guard happens in 14, 16 years, whatever it is, if I'm going to be the same, you know, at that point in time, I'll be 60 to 62, somewhere in that ballpark. I'm not going to be going to the same.
14 years?
Yeah, in 14, 16 years, I'll be 60.
You do not look that.
Yeah, I'm 46.
Okay. I got city miles on me. So.
Oh, I'm a city boy too.
I thought we were 36 together.
No. Well, I'm the new 36. You're just the new 26.
Okay, fair enough. I'll take that.
So no. I was born in 1976.
Wouldn't have guessed that. So
Thank you. I was blessed with a lot of hair from family genetics.
Being the CEO makes you look pretty, so he's killing it.
I take care of my health a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, I try to get up at 4 something in the morning, go to the gym. I commend anybody who can work out after the first thing in the morning. I don't know how somebody does it. I tried lunch. I feel like it prepares me for my day. And the days that I don't work out, that's when I consider myself sleeping in till 6, even on the weekends. And I spend time reading at that point because you got to read. You got to read 6 to 10 hours a week at least.
You read 6 to 10 hours a week?
I read more.
Okay.
You know, I've read 28 books this year. I wanted to get to 50, but that's not going to happen. You know, market conditions have made me have to focus a lot more on my CEO and president job. It's understandable. Not that reading takes away from it. It's just certain focus of mine. I'm a big fan of Audible. You know, you can listen 2.5 times faster, and you can also learn how to active listen when you read through Audible. The key is some people are like, oh, I like to sit down in the book. I like to take notes. You can still take notes. I hit pause, and then I take notes. I speak into my phone, and then I review the notes. Then I write them all down.
Reading and listening at the same time through Audible?
So you're just listening through Audible.
Okay.
But when I hear something, I stop it.
Okay.
And then I take a great point. Because every book, you're looking for 3 to 5 points. Now, I'll write down throughout a book 15, and then I'll narrow it down to the 2 or 3 that really raise my awareness and kind of break through to me. Because you're not taught this in school. You're not taught about philosophy that well. You're not taught about leadership is hard, man. It's just hard, and you have to learn a lot and practice a lot and, you know,
So are you reading?
make a lot of mistakes.
Are you reading business books mainly, or do you get into
Business
some
book.
sci-fi?
I don't get into anything nonfiction.
Okay.
I don't get any nonfictions, but I've read everything. You know, I've read theology, philosophy, physiology, biology. You know, I read a lot of what I'd say more based on humanity, because one of my favorite books, Meditations, which is the journal of Marcus Aurelius, 1,800 years old, still makes very valid points that at the end of the day, till there really is another race, we're all human, and that's the one derivative in everything, and you got to really learn from each other and understand how to collaborate. And a lot of that reading has helped me understand where people are coming from, and even really digging in and asking questions to see where they're coming from. Doesn't mean you agree with them, but even though it's not popular these days, it's perfectly okay to like somebody but still agree to disagree. It's perfectly okay.
I'm a professional agree to disagreeer. So
And that's cool. And when the great part about that is sometimes people always like to use the word right and wrong. It's effective or ineffective. Sometimes that agree to disagree, one person is more effective, and the next time the other person is. That's the difference. And sometimes the most important move isn't the right move. It's the best move. And the best move is the most effective move. And sometimes that isn't technically what paper says is the right move. You know, that's just how it goes.
yeah. What would you say to a first-time home buyer in this market who's maybe shying away because of housing prices and the combination of rising interest rates?
The good news is it's a buyer's market.
Agreed.
You know, the rates, you know, you're starting to see 2-1 buy downs, all that stuff. So you can get a lot of seller concessions to possibly even buy down the interest rates. They hold a lot of negotiating power is what I would tell you. I would tell them, and I've advised this to my team, and like I said, our chief lending officer, Kevin, has advised us the AEs so that they share it with the broker partners, and so as Steve Carpatello with retail is. But there's more inventory now. It's just more and more inventory. People feel like they've lost out, as I jokingly call the Bitcoin. Oh, it was at 60. I'm not selling it. Oh, wait, it's at 50. I better sell now. So you have a lot of people that made a lot of equity on their property. So they're probably willing to take less because it's still a big hit for them, and they're going to do something else or move somewhere else or possibly even rent. You know, you're seeing all that again. And just understand that it may take 15 offers to get the deal you want, but if you're willing to bend on the house, you've got a lot of options. And even if you're not willing to bend on the house, there's like, it has to be one of these 3. I just think your odds are good to kind of get what you want. Yeah, sure, the interest rate's going to be a little bit higher. However, if your debt ratio works, then my philosophy behind that is if you keep working hard, you'll eventually keep getting pay raises, so that debt ratio will come down. Of course, that doesn't mean go buy a twice as expensive car, but we all know how that happens. No saint here in my lifetime, not anymore, but when I was younger. And if the market gets better, then all that happens is you get more cash flow and you can refinance then. So I still think it's a great time. That's actually who's buying mostly now is the first and second time home buyer, the people that want to become a homeowner, or they've gone from 0 kids to 2 or 1 to 3 and they need the extra space. So they're a little bit more motivated, and that does not mean it's going to be as many cookie cutter deals. That does not mean it's going to be the easy stuff. But it doesn't mean that it's still not good and it doesn't perform well. And it doesn't mean that we're not taking care of our fellow Americans. So I would still say, just don't, it's got to be this one. Just don't do that. It's got to be this one. Give yourself some options.
Yeah.
And you'll probably get what you want. You really will, especially in the remote world nowadays. So many people work remote or work hybrid at a minimum. I mean, we've got so many people that work here hybrid 2-3 days a week. They may be willing to live further away when that used to not be something that happened. Now, if you work 2-3 days away from home, that drive once or twice so that you can still build some camaraderie with people doesn't sound so bad anymore. Oh, that extra 30 minutes. I mean, I get it, dude. If it's every day, I could see where that's a stress. But it's once or twice a week.
It's a little bit nicer.
Then you actually kind of enjoy it. And that's when I would tell people, okay, that's when you should read books in your car. You'll have no problem in traffic if you ever listen and read books. That's one thing that helped. Because I'm not going to sit here and lie. Traffic ain't fun. Especially, I live here in Atlanta. I grew up in one of they call it the LA of the South. But if you start reading the books now, if I'm stuck an hour, it doesn't really bother me the same way.
Yeah. Would you say reading books or working out is more important if you had to pick?
Oh, Lord, that is... Oh, God. Well, I have a regimen that I call mental fitness, and there's 3 components to it, and you just named 2 of them, so you're making me break it off into one. God. Man, that's a good question. Because the challenge is they both help you with your mental health. They just have different brackets to it. So...
But as somebody with 400 employees, sometimes you have to triage.
Yeah. I guess I'd say working out because, I've given up some of my reading time to really hone in, to pour into the team and really try to calm the waters as much as you possibly can while not lying to them and being very transparent. And working out has guided me through that. So I do believe... what I consider mental health is the physical activities that you do. So it's not just working out, it's how much water you drink, the supplements, what type of diet you run. And I'm not saying be on a diet, because I heard this once from one of our great AEs, Carrie Cole, that the first 3 letters of diet is die, so that's why it doesn't work. So I mean diet as in more a regimen.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is pretty funny, and you got to be mindful to yourself, meditations or just reflection time, you got to do that. So I think that's what leads to mental health. I think anybody who accomplishes great mental health has a certain regimen, a discipline, something that they do to really invest in themselves, because you can't lift anybody else up if you're not lifting yourself up and making yourself better, because then how can you demonstrate it to them? Forget talking. Talk's cheap. How do you demonstrate it? How do you show it? So, yeah, God, you made me pick. That's brutal.
I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. That's a good one. You made me think. I like it. I appreciate. But yeah, I'd pick working out.
Okay. And then I'm guessing the third tenet would be food. You said there were 3 mental tenets.
So for mental fitness, I consider mental health, mental wellness, and mental strengthening. The reading, the videos, all that, I consider that mental strengthening. Mental health, I consider all that. Anything physical, eating, water, food, exercise. So that's kind of in one category. And then mental wellness is, I believe everybody needs to have advisors. People who, for lack of a better term, because regardless how uncomfortable they make you, and this is the same thing you got to do as a leader, it's all about, for the other person's best interest, how much they can raise them up regardless of how uncomfortable they make them. I think wellness and your advisors, it's okay for them to, quote unquote, challenge you a lot so that you grow, because a lot of the challenges I see in life is that people don't want to struggle anymore. And I've never seen anything that wasn't built without struggle. The difference is, did you struggle bad? Did you struggle okay? Did you struggle good? Or did you struggle well? Anybody who's ever done excellence struggled well, but they still struggled. I mean, that's how, you ain't going to run faster if you don't run. You ain't going to bench press more if you don't lift and have sore muscles. That's just part of the process of, paying the price. And the price knows if you've paid it or not. And you can lie, you can get on social media, you can do a lot of things, but price knows if you paid it or not. And you know it too. So it's okay. And, but yeah, that's the component. I think advisors are very important to challenge you to be the best version of yourself. Not who you are tomorrow, but how can you be better today? Because there's 2 days out of the year that don't matter. Yesterday and tomorrow.
How would you find an advice for somebody who's listening that's not in business? How would you find an advisor who's not in maybe your field, or what type of advisor would you look like?
So I'm part of a CEO peer group. They're like an advisory board. They're great. I have hired a couple different advisors to advise me. That's different in different sense. One in culture and the other one in scaling up leadership. Spouses are fabulous advisors. Nobody wants to admit this, but they know your true colors. That's why it hurts when they say stuff. So maybe, just maybe, if you listen a little bit, doesn't mean you got to defend yourself. Just listen and maybe ask why or how so or what are you thinking. Ask questions to engage in. You may be surprised. There's a lot of good advisors out there. I always say the greatest advisors are very kind. They tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear.
Okay.
So that can be anybody that's, as long as they're not an a-hole about it, because there's always the ghost of leaders past, as I've learned. It's hard to get people to speak up or, become vulnerable because somewhere they've been chastised, and that's normal, unfortunately.
Yep.
Sucks. I'm not saying I like it, but it's normal. And I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a saint and I haven't done it either. I'm sure I've done it. No, I know I have plenty of times.
That's how I met Jamal. So we're good.
I mean, that's there's a great book, The Power of TED, that talks about the drama triangle versus the empowerment dynamic and how you turn it upside down. And it's so true. So true. It's a great, short, easy read book that is very powerful, that a lot of conscious leadership training is backed on, that we've done here as an organization, that we've taught others, because it's funny how they call it the soft skills, because they're really the hard skills.
Yeah.
Your talent's what you're born with. Working on your skills. I mean, even Michael Jordan said it. A lot of people confuse my talents for my skills.
Interesting. We've been doing this for about 3 weeks now, and you're the fifth one, and you're the third person to say either they're in a peer group or a mentor group. And so there has to be some commonality with having that tenant.
Because to your point, you asked, you don't want people to know how to spell mortgage. Because there's plenty of publications, you can call plenty of people here to hear what's going on. You need to hear from different perspectives. Because even though they don't know a mortgage, when you talk about the business, you talk about financials, you talk about this heartache, they've all been through it one way or another. So they can share you life stories and even ideas like, hey, do this, but what about this? Or they just give you great insight. That was one thing I founded in 2008. And that was a huge turning point, not only in the organization, but in my own leadership, because none of them knew mortgages outside of what's your 30-year fixed. But man, they leveled me up culturally and how to lean into people and mistakes I was making. And I mean, just yesterday I was the host, because you have to host. It's a group of 15, so every 15 months you host, and you've got to lay it all out there. And they really come at you in a good way, though. Nobody's mean, nobody's challenging you. They're asking a lot of questions, and I think you need that, because there's just, Steve Jobs, Henry Ford, Andrew Carnegie all said it one way or another, is hire the best, get out of the way. But you as the leader, if you're the CEO, president, or whoever, you got to have details. You got to know what you're talking about. You've got to know enough of everything, not to be dangerous, but enough to ask the right questions so that the professionals and the, like I've said, our head of wholesale, our head of retail, I say, dude, you're the CEO of wholesale and or lending, you're the CEO of retail.
That's a fun and dangerous way to look at that. I like that, but
it's dangerous if egos show up. That's why one of the biggest rituals we do on every Monday, our executive call, is I get everybody to proverbially hang up their egos, and that's why those signs are on the door. I know that from experience. Your ego is not your amigo. I heard that line before, and there is some truth to that. But understanding it, where you start questioning all right, is this ego? No, this is how I feel. Leaning into it, like anything, is really where you get to learn.
Okay. What does NAREP mean?
NAREP, National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals.
Nailed it. We just started an Indianapolis branch.
Oh, nice.
I'm a member, so
Great.
it's not official yet. They have 2 more virtual things, but one of my better realtor partners is the president, the inaugural president. And
Okay, nice.
So
Yeah, no, I think that's who's buying a lot of homes. The Latino community, they ain't so worried if it's 6-7% rate, because they want, especially for the Latino community, what a lot of people don't understand is outside of Puerto Rico and previously till it became an American territory, Latinos have dealt with some form of repressive government. So owning a home to them really is about a castle and their space where they can reflect, enjoy memories with family, and if they've had a bad day, rebuild themselves back. So it's a lot more emotional and psychological than people realize. And I only know that because I've lived it. And they're going to keep buying homes, and they're the largest growing demographic of first-time home buyers anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that NAREP is there, and they're a phenomenal organization. It was coincidentally Gary Acosta started with another guy, Ernie, and he was a mortgage banker. So he built it, what I would say, the right way, because he built it from the finance angle, because it's true. It doesn't matter how great a real estate you have. If you can't finance it, only 20% of deals are cash. So, you're really cutting out a massive market. So it was built to make sure that people can get into homes, and then who they want to pick as real estate agents.
I think the education part for me is the comfort level and the education part. And it's amazing when you see somebody white buy a house. Every now and then I get a magic moment where I can tell they're super happy. But it just feels like every time I go to a closing and it's a first-time home buyer for that Hispanic community, you can just tell it's everything.
Now you know why. It's their castle.
Yeah.
It's their getaway. It's their memories. I mean, even, a lot of Latinos are Catholic. You'll see, it's even somewhere that, you'll sometimes see certain rooms or certain areas that there's tributes to Christ and everything like that. So it's like I said, it's not just emotional, it's psychological. It really makes them feel like they've got a chance to do more. Okay. So it's really about the opportunity to advance.
What advice would you give to a new chapter to be more successful and or to help their community more?
Just get out there. It's going to take a while. It's okay. Raise the awareness is probably the first thing I would say, because it's going to take a while. People are like, oh, I don't know if I need this. You are starting at a good time. The reason I say that is because what's going on in the market, people are going to be a little bit more open now than they would have, a year or two ago. So that's a good thing. That's what I'd say. So I think you will be able to slingshot and raise a lot more awareness. That's pretty powerful in the communities, because people do know. Hispanics will keep buying homes. They really will. It's not as, I don't even know the word to use. It's not as trivial as it is for others.
I'm going to ask you a question I should know the answer to. Do you have a Spanish application on the wholesale side?
It's funny. My compliance officer is probably going to chew me out on this one. So we have reference materials, but technically all legal contracts have to be in English because that's the main language. So
I've gotten beat up over Spanish bank statements before. I understand.
Yeah. I mean, the only ones that are easy are like Hacienda, the tax system from Puerto Rico, because, that's quasi-American territory, how it is. So, it's... Is
that an English CFPB type compliance rule?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't think it's CFPB. I just think that, I don't know. I mean, if I had to speculate and guess, I would say it's just English is the language of this country. We need legal stuff in there because of an attorney may sue later saying that you misled them or something of that nature, or you didn't translate, because some words don't translate perfectly in English than in Spanish. So if it's your own translation, that's different. But, you know, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Something I'll definitely ask. I mean, we have like certain, like I said, content and context around that, but, you know, there's still not a full Spanish application in LOS. And it also could be,
Arrive is hopefully into 2022 we'll have at least a Spanish
guide and all that. Yeah.
application for them to take the
And then
1003.
And then they'll translate it into English. That's probably what they'll have to do.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I think the challenge is, I don't know if this is the rationale, but I could understand. Spanish, okay, what's next? Chinese, what's next? Yeah, like all of a sudden you start, are you going to open up Pandora's box?
No, I can understand that.
I don't know. I'm wondering if that's maybe the hesitation. Like,
But-
wait a second, we're going to have like 100 languages at some point.
And I think that if you want to do business, isn't that where you should go?
No, I definitely, that's why we have the reference guides. And we even have, you know, on our retail side, and I've shared it on the wholesale side, we have translators that'll go out, very inexpensive, because it's usually somebody just picking up side money. You know, go translate some docs, have a nice day.
Yeah.
So it's, and that's the one great thing about NAREP. This is some advice I could give you. I just thought about it. You don't have to speak Spanish to be in it.
I want to be clear. I don't want to steal the board. I am a member of NAREP. I took videos of their meetings yesterday.
No. What I would say to all you guys is, you don't have to speak Spanish to be in NAREP. That's a misconception. As long as you're willing to help the Latino community, they're very receptive and open. Because at the end of the day, it's all about getting loans done.
They have guidelines that prohibit it. I found that very interesting. Gabby, because I was given one of them some feedback, and I said, why did you not let so-and-so speak in Spanish? And she came back and said, he's not allowed. It's against NAREP rules. You have to speak in English because they want it to be inclusive to everybody.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she set me straight.
Guess I've broken a few rules. But I mean, I still spoke most of the time in English. You know, I'd say a word here and there in Spanish, but nothing. I didn't do a full discussion.
I think that would be fine.
No, I mean, that makes sense. You want to be inclusive of everybody because, like I've said, you know, to really expand home ownership, it's going to take everybody in all walks of life. It's not going to take one demographic, one ethnicity, or one gender. It's going to take everybody.
I think NAREP will be a good case study's the wrong word, but I think it will be a good example for other nationalities to start organizations. You know, I have a realtor who does a lot with the African community, and I know they are eager to have home ownership as well. And if they had an organization like NAREP, it would be incredibly empowering for them.
Well, there is NAREB that supports the black community, which stands for NAREB, National Association of Real Estate Brokers.
National Association of Real Estate Brokers?
NAREB.
But they support, do they also support, because he has a lot of clients that speak, what is the one from that Tom Hanks movie? This Tom Hanks movie where he's like, you're the captain now, or I'm the captain now. It's a terrible accent. No, that's Chinese. So, anywho, they speak whatever language is spoken.
Not sure, but there are organizations that do
Okay.
represent that. And I know that for the Asian community, there's AREA.
Aria?
Mm-hmm. AAREA. Asian American Real Estate Association. That's what I'm pretty sure it stands for.
So, well, look, I would talk to you all day. I find you fascinating.
Thank you. You're very kind.
I appreciate you giving me 30 minutes of your
Oh,
time.
no, man. My pleasure. Greatly appreciate it. Hopefully, to your crowd in Indianapolis of all walks of life, that they got something from this, not just the mortgage side, maybe something about life, maybe something that they can look into, maybe mental health, you know, maybe how to take care of veterans. Because at the end of the day, as I said, like in the book from Marcus Aurelius, it's still humanity that is the same derivative in everything. So, as unpopular as it is okay to agree to disagree, but it's completely okay to get to know each other and get to like each other more.
I think they'll learn a lot. So
Great.
I did. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Yeah, you're welcome. Please call me Eddie.
Thank you, Eddie.
Mr. Perez. Sounds like my daughter's friends.
I found out you're 46.